All right, let's see how this goes. So, today my intention is to try to share my journey here in a quickish way, and yet it still won't be as quick as some people might like. The thing is, the whole time I've been doing this since I've been practicing, I think, since 2015, and it took me till 2016 till I finally got to post, and now it's 2019, and this is where I'm at. Journeys, right? Point being that when I first started, I had a lot of people telling me how much they wanted short videos because I spoke too much and they didn't want to hear much. And if I wanted people to hear me, I had to make like 1 minute videos. Do you understand how hard that is to take all that knowledge and put it into a minute? That it's crazy. Point being, I was told as I kept going that the short videos were more appreciated. Again, do you understand how hard that is? And now I'm just gonna do my video. So it's my life. It's already shortened. Like, you want me to shorten it more just for you? Well, now I feel like it's up to you. It's not like you can't take a YouTube video and watch sections of it. Do you know, going through research, how many 15-hour, 8-hour, 49-hour, etc. videos I've watched, and just I'm the one that allotted the times. I'm the one that went back to them. I mean, we each have a certain amount of responsibility ourselves. Why is it that they expect me to have to do it a certain way for them to listen? I mean, it's your choice if you wish to listen. I'm doing it for the betterment of humanity, and if you're telling me that for humanity to listen to me, I have to do it a way that you need to hear, not how everybody might need it, like, whatever. It's your life. It's my life, and it took me a while to get here, to finally do this. So thank you everyone though, because you did help me to communicate better and you did help me to get here, but at the same time, I just got to do things my way. All right. So growing up as a kid, I lived a very different life than I do now. I believed in the world very differently than I do now. My family came from fresh off the boat, both of the sides, Chinese, Shanghai. And it was definitely during times where my grandpa really didn't like Caucasian and he really didn't like Japanese, to the point where our whole lives, even though I wouldn't consider ourselves wealthy at the time, even though our whole lives he didn't accept any other race and always talked about moving us back to China to have arranged marriages with Chinese men. Didn't matter about love or anything. It was just, the way that he saw it and tradition. At the same time, my grandma, she never spoke English. She actually, right before she died, she actually said the first English word I ever heard her say: Monday. And it was the day that her favorite show was on. Always. She always watched that show since I was young. And it was how many years before she was able to say the word Monday? But my eyes filled with tears of joy. It was really cool. Because she didn't even understand the language and she watched the show. Because it was, I guess, about love. A love that maybe she didn't really know. And my mom's side, my dad's side, both fresh off the boat. And me and my siblings are first generation here. And I didn't experience racism in my town I first grew up in, but I definitely did in the smaller town that we moved to for my parents' business. Now, going to school, though, in the bigger city that I lived in, it definitely had a lot of, I don't really want to say, it's not really bullying, but it was definitely cliques and groups and wanting kids to join. And I remember one instance where this girl had the whole almost school, it looked like, following her around. They walked around the school and they came among me and a few friends, and basically they were like join or be an outsider. And basically everyone joined, and I basically looked at them and saw the whole big group and was like, nah, I'm gonna go play on the playground. And I went and played by myself. And I guess that really showcases the kind of person that I am. Also, my mom told my older sister when she was young and going through school, because she asked, like, Mom, like, what do I do when my friends want me to do something I don't want to do? And my mom said to her, well, they're not your friends then, because if they make you do something you don't want to do, then they don't really care for you or like you, so they're not really your friends. And that's the kind of mother that I have. The reason why me and my family are the way we are is definitely because of my parents, who are actually the older children. Do I think there's differences? I do, in the different ways that we experience, for sure. Both my parents are the oldest, and both of them are super driven. Super driven. And in ways, it made it that I just want you to understand that just because your parents are both super driven, it doesn't necessarily mean that you'd be driven. It sometimes can mean that you'd be opposite. But yeah, me and my family are definitely driven leaders that we didn't really understand until further in life. We're all different, definitely leaders, and we can't help it. We're very observant. We see a lot of things, and we make decisions and thoughts quick, and we're very organized and can do shit really fast. Now, does that mean everything was easy? No, it doesn't. We were definitely outsiders for most of our lives. So when I was in the city, I wasn't an outsider, not at all. I was definitely well-known and held my own. Then we moved to a smaller town for my family business, and when I say that, it does not mean they were wealthy. My parents are so driven. My dad, when he was in high school, he worked 3 jobs in the summer just to get himself a car. My mom and her family were taught, when my mom was 9, how to already be line cooks in their lineup. They cooked and cleaned every night. And when I was growing up, my mom already had chore lists for us for every week. And we rotated, me and my sisters, every week with the house cleaning, with the bathroom, the kitchen, the full house, the vacuuming, all of that. And it was all, I think it's Asian style. It could be many style families, how you just help out the household, right? So when I went to the smaller town, I actually experienced a lot of racism. But at the same time, I found that my grandfather was racist in some way, but at the same time, my grandpa had his reasons for being racist because of wars, So, coming here, obviously, they thought it'd be for better opportunity and better for our lives, which it was. I'll forever be thankful. I am very grateful for the life that I live and the freedoms that I've had and have been able to develop into who I am. At the same time, it's crazy is because on one hand, while in the physical side, they have those problems to deal with and they come here, the next generation has a whole load of other problems. Because when you have more freedoms comes the more emotional, mental, and spiritual problems, right? That they don't understand because they were going through a lot of the physical, which was huge, and I'm so glad I didn't have to experience that. But it doesn't make the other stuff easier, okay? It doesn't make the other stuff easier. The thing about it is we do not give enough credit or credence to the other parts. And I'm actually really lucky in ways, I guess, that I got to develop those parts because of the sacrifices and compromises and strength that they put forth to bring us here. And that's why life is lived in generations. Each of us helping each generation out in that complete circle of life. So, the whole time growing up, though, from city to small town, my parents always were up to date in news and politics and everything. I've actually heard my family talk about politics my whole life. And I always found my parents to be very well versed in everything. I've always felt like, and this is my opinion, obviously, but I've always felt like my parents could run the world, rule the world. But I don't like thinking about running or ruling anymore because I don't think we need to run or rule. I think that we can co-optively do it all together in a cooperative way. Just all of us each taking responsibility. Now, the thing is, my parents always came up with amazing solutions quick, super quick. And it was funny to watch them say what they believe the solution to be, to see how it could work out in the best way, and then watching the leaders just doing what they do. I mean, it's still to this day the same thing. I don't get why people don't see the patterns. I don't get why people still think that, whatever, it's their thing. Point being, so as I watched all of this happen since I was a child, I mean, the treason, the blackmail, the stuff coming out of the media, the stuff being hidden from media, things no longer coming out to people, and still people think that it doesn't happen. I mean, okay, fine, if you want to believe that. I mean, truth is, people want to believe the best of people in life, and that is such a beautiful thing, and that is what I always did. I always thought the best of everyone. I gave them trust right away, all of that stuff. And to be honest, truth is earned. Truth is earned. And now it doesn't mean that when I see somebody, I don't allow them a full, clean slate of truth. I fully do. But as in their actions and as in what they do, I start to tick off boxes to understand their character. And as time goes, I decide if they still earn that whole plate of complete truth. And in truth, most times a lot of people don't, because there are a lot of liars in this world. A lot. And I don't lie. I grew up starting to lie because, I mean, in society and all the kids you know and parents, they lie everywhere. But I actually stopped the lying thing when I was a child. I stopped it when I was about 13 because my mom, of what she said, and I said that in a video, that she told me that you can lie as much as you want, but in truth you're only lying to yourself. So why? And when I realized that, I decided to never lie again, which I didn't. I really don't lie. Now, the thing is, it doesn't mean that when people tell me things in confidence that I don't keep those secrets for them. I keep secrets. I do. But I also am always honest, especially to self and especially to others. Well, to all then. Point being, it definitely leads to a different life. Everything is frequency, right? This is frequency, something I learned down the line as I observed and as I learned a lot of things. The energy part of it came in about 2013 when I understood that. Now, so growing up, moving into a small town, my family was still not successful at all. They actually took a big risk moving there. Do you know how many people were on my family telling them how stupid they were and how idiotic they were and how they were going to lose everything, and they have 3 kids, and what are they doing going into a huge debt and bankruptcy by choosing that? But my mom, she had to choose it. She had to, because of the life we were living in the city where she, in some soul, emotional way, was going to die. And she had to leave. And so my family picked up and moved to the small town. Now, our business did become successful, but it did not become successful right away. It was actually one of the hardest things ever. They put the time and effort, and yet still not appreciated, because the whole town eventually did become very successful. But just because a town becomes successful does not mean a business does. Do you know in the town I live in how many businesses have suffered? And yet ours thrived. It did. And it's because of the love and hard work we put in. My mom and dad worked endlessly. When we moved, they didn't even really have time to raise 3 young children. Me and my sisters raised ourselves and put ourselves through school. We didn't even have to go to school. My younger sister went to school every day and got herself straight A's and on the honor roll. My older sister did better in school too. She wasn't doing very well in the city we were. When we moved to the town, she also got into the honor roll. Whereas I did the other way, and I ended up skipping a lot of school because I thought differently. And whatever I shared in school, anyways, they wouldn't give me good marks for. So that was fine. And yet when I did stuff the right way, obviously good marks. And when I did stuff for other people's homework, obviously they got like almost 100%, pretty much 99% or 100%. And so, I mean, that taught me about the system right away, that they say, outside thinkers, they say there's no stupid questions, and yet they make you feel like there is, and they make you feel like you can only have certain opinions. So learned that pretty young. I didn't realize how different I was until, when I really look back, I suppose I really was very different and didn't go along with the grain ever, really. Now, the thing is, my parents with the small business, to keep us out of trouble and I guess to spend some time with us, they had us working really young. We didn't consider it child labor, and I mean, some people even said that to my parents that it was child labor, but it wasn't. We did start very young, but they did pay us. And I'm not going to say I started out being a great worker right away. In truth, it was later, a few years later, when I thought it was my friend and boyfriend at the time, young boyfriend, so not real boyfriend, who went to my parents and found out how much I made, which wasn't that much, but it was more than they made. And they didn't think I was a hard worker, so they told my family, my parents, and they demanded a raise. So my parents came back to me, got mad at me, and basically told me, why do they have people coming to them saying this, and how disgraced they were, and that I better get my ass working and showing them that I'm worth it. And from that moment on, because I was so pissed off that those guys didn't even talk to me about it and went straight to my parents just to get themselves better money. Do you know, I was like 14 at the time. Like, screw you guys. I've already been working for like 4-5 years of my life, and that's only working there, not working at home, okay? So I was scrubbing the floor with a toothbrush, and that's actually when I learned how much you can do in the allotted 8 hours of time. And from that moment on, I had worked my butt off, went to school and worked my butt off. I worked hard. I was definitely one of the hardest workers. I ran departments pretty young. And in truth, me and my sisters could run whole stores before our 20s. Like, we could, if we wanted to. In truth, my family can run stuff like amazing. You put us in there, we got it. We got it. And so I still saw the world in a very positive way, all the while always being told things about myself. 1, about my race. 2, obviously in school, about my smarts. 3, always with I'm too loud, I speak too loud. There's always a lot of damaging things that we don't realize that people make comments of, the ones that we love especially, and we take it on, and we take it on, and we try to change and become different. So a lot of it led me to dim myself. I dim myself a lot, always for people, because I wanted to make them comfortable. I thought it was bad to be who I was because everyone was always telling me to be not who I was. And so I allowed the dimness, especially for boyfriends that I loved. Girls tend to do that, and I'm sorry about the male-female. If you feel like you do it, you're male-female, then you do. But for me, it's also about the feminine, male, and masculine energy. Everything is feminine, masculine energy. And just because you're male doesn't mean you don't have more female energy, and just because you're female doesn't mean you don't have more masculine energy. While I'm female and I'm not homosexual, I have a lot of masculine energy within me, and yet I am very feminine as well. Now, the thing is, we as girls tend to give ourselves up for the men right away. It must be our nurture nature, maternal thing that we do. We believe that's love. So we see potential in our partner and we drop everything for our partner. One of the things I came up with that I say all the time and I feel like rings true and remains true is that right away, guys are number one, numero uno, before the child comes. And they do everything for their partner. And it's work for them to not have their partner or family as number one. Whereas for the male, it's work to have that female and family as number one. And to me, it's just the way it is, because I do believe in the Adam and Eve, and that Eve came out of the rib of Adam from the inside. And so to me, for the balance of all, it makes sense that the male is one side and the female is the other. It makes sense that the male mind is singular and the woman is more multi-wired. It makes sense, all of it put together makes sense. The woman is round and curvy, the male is more straight, the masculine and feminine. And we complete each other together. So I don't expect each other to have or understand fully the traits of each other. At the same time, it doesn't mean that efforts and steps can't be put forth and those be appreciated. The thing is, though, people don't appreciate things that they don't understand, and that's something that happens little too late. And that's why the first step in everything is to appreciate what you have and others first. When you appreciate that stuff, when you stop for a moment in life and actually think and feel and reflect and appreciate those things, that's when so much magic happens in your life, because you start to realize things. Things change, so much more abundance comes to you, prosperity, love, all of that, hope, miraculousness, just seeing the beauty in life and all around you. Appreciation and gratitude is definitely the first step to everything. The most beautiful things in life. The joy and happiness, the realizing what you actually have. Yeah. And so, definitely worked hard, continued to work hard, and was always told that I live in a bubble because I was so positive. I was so positive that I would annoy people. I was so positive that people didn't think I understood the world. And while I did, in many ways I didn't. And so when voting age came, and I was very eager to vote because I had known so much about politics throughout my life because of my family and because what you learn in school, and then they tell you to go research. So I thought I knew a lot about politics. Then voting time comes and I start researching into platforms, and especially because everyone's saying that I live in a bubble and I need to research. People don't understand how much I dive in. The kind of person I am is I dive in. I go into depths. And so I started researching. And I read platforms. And for me, I couldn't vote right away because as much as I wanted to vote, the people I couldn't support them. And I couldn't, because of how honest I was, because of how genuine I was, because of how authentic I was, I couldn't vote for someone that I didn't support fully. That just because they say to vote for who you mostly, even if they have some bad things. And to me, like, I didn't get that. And while I tried, the most I felt for that was like maybe 60%. And to me, 60% is not enough to give my full vote and confidence to someone in that kind of power. It's just not. And so it actually took me about 3-4 years continually researching into platforms and watching what they were doing before I was thinking I could vote, actually. So when I say this, you need to understand, I've been watching parties since I was young because my family always watched parties and talked about the parties. And so when it's not like those 4 years that I didn't vote, you can't tell me that, oh, well, they only are in there for 4 years or 2 years, 4 years, and it really takes a party like 8 years to do something. Yeah. Point being, I watched the parties. I saw it all. And so it's not like anything different really happened. It's the same freaking pattern. And so came me at 21, 22. And again, still couldn't because I watched the people who lie constantly. Do you know that if you were to go back into all platform history and then go through all of their careers, how much wouldn't actually lead up to what they say? That you would actually see that we enable these people to be liars to our face for voting time. And then comes what they do, and it's not that at all. It's the same freaking pattern. I cannot believe I'm 35 years old now, and it's the same thing. It's pretty crazy to me. I mean, what is insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again. Okay, so then it actually led me into, okay, because I didn't actually start diving into researching until I was later. basically after my 22s, yeah, that's actually when I met my really, really, really serious relationship boyfriend, who we didn't even plan to be serious. We were actually just sleeping together, but it turned into a beautiful 12-year relationship. A very hard one for the last 6 years, but a beautiful one. It was my honeymoon that I had for 6 years, which is insane. I've never heard of any relationship having a honeymoon for 6 years. But what you need to understand of that too is that was a lot of work on, well, his part, but on my part, because like I told you, the kind of person I am. So I was always observant since I was young. My actual thing, my biggest thing was relationships and love. I've always been in love with love and love stories and everything. And the thing that drove me into the person I was all the tragedies, tragic love stories, all the love stories not meant to be, the suffering of all the families not understanding, all of that kind of pain was what led me to be who I am, because I couldn't believe that life was like that. All I wished for everyone was to experience the love stories and happiness that they've always wished to, because I thought I didn't understand why it couldn't be. I mean, I did, but I really, when you think of the all, because, even the arranged marriages, even all of that, even in the royal families, even in the native chief families, all of that, I still didn't understand why it had to be that way. I didn't get how families could burn with acid their children. I didn't get how they could mutilate their genitals. I didn't get any of that. I didn't get how they could kill the ones that they supposedly love because of marriages. Like, come on. Come on. And so I always observed relationships because I was always sad about relationships that didn't work in the beautiful way that they had all wanted. So I wanted to make sure that I could help people in their relationships and that mine would be amazing. Also watching my parents' relationship and how that one happened and spread apart also led me to be inspired into making sure that my own relationship wouldn't be as such. And yet I had heard things, in psychology and in many ways about how women tend to go after men that are like their fathers, and men tend to go after women that are like their mothers, and all of that kind of stuff. And so I kept a lot of things in mind while going through this. I also made sure to have open communication. I was also the mediator in many relationships for people to be able to have better communication. I was actually really good. I am actually really good at helping people with communication. It's kind of what I do. And so having all of that and going through all of that, I do observe relations. And in truth, a lot of what we're living and what sparks is because of non-communication and relationships, and actually stems from relationship with self. And most of us, the majority of us in this world, do not have relationship with self, and that is one of the most important to not experience what we're experiencing at this moment. So the funny part is watching people decide to go to war, learning about history, learning about politicians, and seeing how much non-communication there really is. They think that it's communication, but it's not real communication. It's communication with an agenda. And communication with an agenda is not fully a communication at all. I mean, you can say that I have communication here with an agenda, and that's fair, but I feel an agenda and intention are different. Very different. Intention, I feel like, depending what space you come from, I mean, as we go along, I'll share more of that. But for me, it's more like, for my intention that I come from, it's about opening that space for us for understanding. Other people's intention could be the agenda. That's the difference. Now, there came a time in my life where people were still not happy that I wasn't voting. And even though I told them about all the research I did, obviously they don't believe, because this is the funniest part, okay? Do you know that no matter how much research that you do, the people who don't research will continue to talk to you about stuff as if they know more, and yet you can talk to them and they admit to you that they don't research and still they fight for their stance. Yet, if they were to just take some time and do the research, do you understand how much more open their mind would be, how much more they would see, and how much they probably wouldn't be standing there like that? And yet they expected me, who had done all this time and put forth all this effort, to just jump on their bandwagon. It's honestly because people just wish to remain comfortable and ignorant in their bliss, and they don't appreciate when someone comes along with broader horizons, opening doors, because it scares them. And so they wish for that person to join them in their little box. But sorry, I don't live in a box. Not at all. So I continued to research further to find people information, and that led me down a completely different rabbit hole. That was actually the year that the Defense Minister of Canada came out and started talking about different life forms on Earth. Now you have to understand that it's not like he started talking about different life forms and I just accepted it. I have also always contemplated the possibility of life and thought about many ways, and I understood that scientists had also decided that perhaps that other life could just mean organisms and bacteria, and how that could be other life. But as I'm a contemplator and a thinker, big thinker, as I thought more and more, because as you go deeper, the only thing possible is for there to be other life. There is no other way. There's either no life or much life. Okay, and all in between. And so my life started to change in 2010 when I started learning more and more about whistleblowers and people in high positions who have always spoken and always been hushed, and in some way always killed. Oh, there's so many. And then I started going down that rabbit hole. The rabbit hole that seemed to go on forever and get darker and darker and darker. And you lose more and more hope. And this is when a lot of people around me in my life started thinking that I was crazy. And started talking about me, not even talking to me, but talking to those around me. I even had family around me diagnose me as hyper-delusional. I had a lot of people not want me to talk. I had a lot of people, it was very lonely. Very lonely. And at the same time, I understand. Yeah, I can't imagine it was easy for them, and yet you think it was easy for me. Even my partner at the time, that super amazing relationship, he's very science, very science. Our first fight was actually about gravity. Isn't that funny? Oh man. And at the time, he did not appreciate when I was talking about the differences in our thinking, because he, felt that he was very open-minded. And when I told him about how much more open you can go, that was difficult for him. But it's funny now is because he would tell you how different things are now, and yet how he is still similar in ways and yet different. But, everyone remembers things differently. Memory changes, they say, based on emotion within 2-3 years, and, completely changes what we see. Now, knowing that, I still believe I am the most unbiased of most that I know. I am very objective in many ways. Many ways. Very, very equal and fair. I am all about fairness, always. And so, I went through a very dark time where I was very alone and very misunderstood, not understood at all. And so I dove in to research like crazy. I researched hugely from 2010 to 2015 and on. I still research, but not as much as I did. The biggest years of my research were definitely from 2013 to 2018. 2013 to 2018. I did A lot. Mostly the biggest, like my 15-hour, 16-hour plus days, on and on and on, were definitely from 2013 to 2017. That's when my life was, I basically lived at nighttime. I was a night owl. Night owl. I definitely lived by the moon at the time. I would wake up. My wake up time was 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. and I would be awake till 7 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m. sometimes. Sometimes I'd be up for 36 hours, 50 some hours. I know some people might not want to believe that, and but I was. I would even sometimes go to work from then. My job, sometimes I would be up from 5 a.m., do my work till 8 p.m. sometimes, and then do my research from then until the next day and go to work again at 5 a.m. That's just, yeah, it was pretty funny. My partner at the time would always laugh at how he'd wake up to me on the computer just researching and away. Now, that led me down a very dark hole. A very, very dark hole. As that's when I saw the truth of the world. Of how far this goes back into history. Of how much control and puppeteer masters we have that we call elitists today. Of the banking system, the government system, the healthcare system, the education system, all the systems that we have in place. All the people running it, where it came from. The division of it all, the separateness of all, the psychology of it all, the breaking down of behavior. Do you know how many experiments have been done on humans, willing and unwilling? Do you know? Think about all the lobotomies. Think about all the shock therapy. Think of all the torture that you don't even know. Think of all the freaking brain things they do, the behavioral things they do, the stuff. Do you know they drugged people without them knowing? Do you know there is so much that it's crazy? And yet, in the name of science, right? So how much do you think they've actually worked out? They've worked out so much that literally on your phones to the moment you say something, the moment you look something, it's on your ads. That is all from all of this experimentation. Do you understand that? It's all over us. Do you know that, so my business that my family owned was a grocery business, and when we went to the conferences around the world, do you know they literally told us that they do these human experiments to find out which is the fastest, quickest way to market to people? And everyone's sitting there thinking, soaking in about how they can do this, and I'm sitting there being like, they basically just told us that they experiment human behavior to this point for consumerism, okay? For consumerism. And yet we have all these people suffering, okay? One of the biggest things that I wanted to work out was how to help people get out of mental institutions, how I want to help people get out of hospitals, how I want to help people out of slavery and suffering and starvation and no access to clean water and all of this kind of stuff. I wanted to help all of that, and yet this is what our world is doing. This is what our leaders are doing. This is what is happening. I wasn't okay with any of that. And then when I saw all of it, wow, you definitely start losing hope. There definitely is not much. I almost threw in the towel. And yet I'm a very spiritual person. I've always been spiritual. And then, as well as researching into all the history of the systems and society and economy, along came ancient history and civilizations and archaeology. And you start to realize, why is there so many similarities between the modern day elitist, the structures around with the lions everywhere, with the certain symbols everywhere, and yet those date back thousands and thousands of years. What are these same symbols doing there? What are these things that we do not understand? Why is that all-seeing eye on the American dollar bill? What are Masons? What are all of these things? It's all around us. And then you find out about the American $1 bill and how they talk about witchcraft. and that the witchcraft is the symbolism on the $1 bill, that if it goes around spread among the majority and they have no clue what that is, it actually benefits to the power. So what does that mean? What does that mean? And so you go on further and further into the rabbit hole, and you find out how much occult history, alchemy, there's another word, occult, alchemy, there's another one, and how much that is within our leaders, how much rituals are practiced, how many things that they do. Oh, also, yeah, pedophiles, murderers, kidnapping, people disappearing. That was one of the things that I was super intrigued by, because actually growing up, I was super into the FBI files and murder cases. I actually was into it so much that it made me wonder, because I believed in past lives, if I used to be an FBI agent, detective for homicide cases and all that kind of stuff, if I actually used to be maybe a killer in one of those past lives, because I was actually really good at this stuff, and I actually found it to be pretty crazy that how was it, and it's because of observing. Do you know that there's stories literally that they tell you about 7 people that pleaded guilty even though they were all innocent because of the beatings that they took from the cops? That because of that they pleaded guilty, and yet they weren't the killers, and only after years of being in prison for that did they actually find the killer? Like, do you understand how crazy that is? And that's just one case. There are so many cases of that. So many. And do you know of how many people are wrongly accused that they put in? And do you know how many people they want to hush and shut up and put in? Like, there's so much stuff to this, and it gets really, really dark. Do you know that when you research into these things, you actually see all the cases of where so many doctors, lawyers, bankers are all killed? Hundreds of them in 1 year, few months go. Doesn't it make you wonder? The people that have patents on certain energies all of a sudden go missing or die, and all of a sudden only one person holds the patent to the biggest energy of the world before we're switching over. Does that not make you wonder? So many things. So many false flags. So much information that they tell you once that should actually be the one that's broadcasted, like the missing $14 trillion or $1 billion. Like, did you know about that? Did you know that that happened right before a big event in the world? And they only had to tell us once. There's so much. And yet, going through all that, obviously no one wanted to believe me or hear me out or anything. They just wanted to label me as some crazy different girl because that's the easier route, right? Yeah, not easy. And so, darkness, but yet many lights, so many lights. Do you know how beautiful life is when you actually find the true essence of it all? When you recognize why the polarities exist, when you understand about the angels and demons among what we live. And this is what I'm here to share now. I'm here to share mostly how to get out of the darkness into the light. I will share some about the systems and the things that I research and the things I talk about. I'll read more of that stuff because all that stuff was from 2015 that I wrote down, and I always wanted to do episodes. That's what started it all. And it's funny was because when I was going through it, you have no idea how much I wanted to, and I was, but no one listened because they thought I was crazy. How much I wanted to scream about the Illuminati and the elitists and the systems in place, and how much I thought I had to shine the light on that. But as I went through this, I realized, and it's funny is because you actually see it in a lot of people that have been doing action towards this for way longer than I have. They actually only touch on it a little bit. So there are stages to this. First of all, you get really angry and you want to help the man out. But as you go further, you realize that you're a part of the problem. I'm sorry, we all are. And it's hard to accept that responsibility. Because that's when you realize that we have the power in ourselves within. to decide the reality that we live in. Now, I'm not going to say that people who are protecting themselves in the places that are considered to be the hot spots for what they believe is to come, because it doesn't mean that it's not, but the possibility is there for it not to come. And it's up to you what frequency you hold. But the frequency you hold is not just from outside of yourself. It is from within, all the way through the layers out. And that's the frequency to hold. So if you believe you need to defend, that is the frequency you're going to live. If you believe that you have things to fight, that is the frequency you're going to live. But if you believe that things can be different, then that's the frequency you can live. And I'm not trying to say one extreme to the next, meaning that you have to put down all your defense mechanisms, I'll call them, even though I'm talking about weapons. I'm not trying to say you have to put them all down because of where you're at. I'm just saying that if you wish to have them at the moment, you can work on yourself from within at the same time to build up your power so that you don't need those weapons, because your power is your inner energy. And I'm not joking about that. I am not joking about that. When you recognize the things about energy, you recognize that there are certain things that cannot exist in certain frequencies. And this is what they're talking about as the rapture and people disappearing and all that kind of stuff, is because it's different frequency. Cancer and different sicknesses cannot exist within a certain frequency, and that is why they need you vibrating in a certain frequency to have the cancers, and that is why so much cancer is rampant right now. It's because of the food, it's because of the emotions, it's because of where the humans are vibrating, it's because of all the chemicals put in place to make us susceptible to this vibration of lowness. But yet, if within you are vibrating higher, everything else around you will also vibrate higher, because there's dissonance. You need certain things to be certain frequencies to exist. And when you realize that you decide that, you have all the power for that, you recognize your full strength. So the thing about that is, you need to understand how well planned all of this was, how well planned to condition the minds to not accept. Now, as much as it's our heart, the mind is a very, very powerful tool. It creates everything. We are the ones that sell ourselves what it is. And you can say that the same for me. I don't mind at all, because it's truth. And yet it's because of the perspective that certain people live in, that they experience the lives they do. It's also what you allow, meaning that if you believe you have to sacrifice, if you believe it needs to be that way, if you allow the others people's judgments to lead you to the life you do, it's all part of it. I'm not saying this stuff is easy. It's not. It is work, but it is worth it. It is worth it, I'm telling you. But it's tough. But I mean, people want an answer, they want the way, and I'm giving you a way. I think it's the best way, personally, because it's the most solid, foundational way. And yet you gotta put in the time, you gotta put in the work. People always want the easy answer, right? And it's funny, because it can be. I can say, choose yourself. And yet it's not easy. Okay, and it's not selfish, trust me. But it depends how you look at the word selfish. It depends how you look at everything. It's because everything can be looked at in so many ways. So many ways. Because in truth, as much as I was upset and as much as I wanted to wave the flag on all of the people and shine the light on everything evil I felt at the time, I realize now why many people only give a small segment to that, because they realize how much of it is our responsibility as ourselves and as a humanity, and how much in truth they don't have much power. The power that they have and why they decided to have the media and control it all is because they need that to blast out to people that don't understand, so that they have the power and control over the people to create the world that they wish to. They need you, your brain power, your creative power to be part of the reality, to create the reality that they wish. And yet if you decide to step out of that and create your own reality, less power to them, less power to them. We are the ones who give them the power instead of empowering ourselves, okay? And so while I thought I had to scream and shout and kick and scream and tell everyone about that, it's funny, my path has now led me into a different direction, which was the direction that I had always intended, which is to help people with themselves within, so that they can claim themselves and create the lives that they have always wished to experience. And that is what I'm going to do. It's not like I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just not going to give it as much power as I used to think I had to help people. Because in truth, I actually don't wish to taint a lot of people's world. Because do you know how hard it is to get out of that darkness and still see the light and all the beauty? It's not an easy path. And as I developed and kept going, I realized it doesn't have to be everybody's path. Some people can continue to know their world. It's just like, I mean, in all the movies, they say everything in all the movies because they own the freaking movie industry, okay? They own most of the industries, okay? They own them. And so they do tell us the stories because you need to know some of the rules in life. They have to tell us because that's part of the rules in this realm. The free will and choice we need to know, which is why some of the biggest things they only say once before they cover it up with all the false flags, is because when I explain this, basically there are other beings and energies watching us, and they don't understand life the same way as we humans do. So when they look down on us, when I say look down, I don't mean look down, but when they look among the earth, they see certain things, and so they think we're in support of it, when most of us are ignorant to realizing that we seem like we're supporting it. Now, the thing about it is that because it's free will and choice, it's up to us about what we ask and allow. And so, because when we give them the power, then the beings above think that we are in support and part of it too. But it's not the truth. It's not the truth. So I realize now that not everyone has to have a tainted version of the world, because to hold that positive frequency is a beautiful thing. Now, when I say that, it doesn't mean that they need to remain ignorant. They don't. But we don't need to pass this information along in a scare tactic way, in a fear-mongering way, in a way to continue to create that thinking that you have not enough power and that you need to defend yourself in the way that we believe you need to defend yourself, which is only in that physical, not realizing the true power of ourselves and our energy frequencies, that we're able to really just do it like this. So you see, who's going to want to believe that? People don't even believe in the masters that are able to move chi. They think people fake it, and you can if you want, but you don't know till you know. And that's the way life goes. So I will be talking about those things, but it will really be... it's not really going to be glazed over, because I'm going to be talking about it a bunch, because I am constantly talking about the symbols that you see in... it's changing more and more. Basically, if you really want to see a lot of the symbols I would see in movies and TV shows, it's very, very apparent, definitely from 2013 to 2016 for sure, 2017, because lately they've been changing them a bit, because it's kind of funny. You actually kind of realize that we're all in this together, really, the darkness and the light. The elitists are part of it too. They just have the knowledge that they didn't share with us. And maybe in some ways they're doing what I just said, that you don't need to know until we bring the world into the place. Maybe in their way they're bringing the world there too, and maybe that's why they believe they are the light, you know? There's so much in that. Anyways, sorry for the ones that don't understand the things I'm saying here, but like I said, I'm not going to explain here fully until I do. I just need to speak some. I didn't get everything I want to say out here at this moment, but this is what it is for now. And I'm going to eat breakfast now because I'm hungry. I love you all, and thanks for listening through if you did, and sorry if that was complicated for you to understand at the moment, but I mean, there's so much information. Love you all. And see, even this is even something different in every language. This, symbolism, hey? And yet, certain symbolism is the same throughout. Like the all-seeing eye. Like the infinity symbol. Anyways. I mean, even think about it. The different gods, and yet God. So many things. Love you all.